Ukrainian soldiers are training in trench warfare in western Poland before they're sent to the front lines as the war in Ukraine becomes more complicated by harsh winter weather. Tonight, my colleague Bret Baier talks with a filmmaker who's embedded with Ukrainian soldiers already on the battlefield. That film, shown at the United Nations this week and premieres publicly today.
Thanks, Rich. We're about to get a closer look at the Ukraine war on the ground. Joining us tonight is French author and filmmaker Bernard-Henri Lévy. While making his latest documentary, he visited more than 20 places all across Ukraine, traveled a lot through the Donbass region here, had some close calls as well in Bakhmut, right here. 2 separate occasions almost hit by missiles, had some compelling interviews throughout the film, including Russian prisoners of war who were captured by the Ukrainians along the front line. In eastern Ukraine, Lévy speaks with 2 soldiers from the Israeli Defense Forces who are reunited with their Ukrainian counterparts.
Your first mission is to come back safe.
Partez à la rencontre des résistants de la première heure, bénévoles et citoyens soldats qui se battent pour défendre l'Ukraine. Plus qu'un acte de résistance, un hymne à la liberté.
This is my country, this is my army, this is my heart, you understand?
That is a piece of French author, filmmaker Bernard-Henri Lévy's latest documentary called Glory to the Heroes. Bernard, thanks for coming back to Special Report.
Thank you.
This film really is an ode to the Ukrainian forces who are fighting on the ground. You spent a lot of time there. Tell us what you took away from this documentary.
We feel a fatigue. They do not. They fight with an incredible energy, and they fight for us. The thing I heard most on the trenches and on the battlefield is we Ukrainians fight for our country, but also for you, Americans and Europeans. We are your border. This is a sentence I heard most. We, Ukraine, are your border in the West.
You know that there's an uphill battle now on Capitol Hill in this town for funding for Ukraine. It is not a done deal. When you hear that, what do you think?
I am sad to see how petty political quarrels can win over American values, American creed, and American national interest. For America, for Europe, Ukraine is a matter of security. If you Americans, if we French don't want to have to send one day boots on the ground in Finland or wherever in a NATO country, Ukraine has to win.
There is criticism of President Zelensky's leadership. There are some, including the mayor of Kyiv, who've said that he is instituting authoritarian dictates and that there's this feeling that it's changing. There's also criticism in a large Washington Post piece about how the war has been fought and the offensives not being effective. You were on the ground with these forces. You've been on the ground with this government. How do you respond to that?
Believe me, they know what they do better than Washington Post or Le Monde or New York Times. They know what they do. They prevented the full-scale invasion. But if we don't give them F-16 and F-16 now, or Mirage or Rafale in France, no army can win over the second army in the world, which is the Russian army.
You've done a good job of depicting the atrocities against the Ukrainian people, what has been happening on the ground to some of those families. Do you think that the attention that the attack of Hamas on Israel, and now that war between Israel and Hamas leadership, has taken away from the impetus, the urgency of supporting Ukraine in the world's eyes?
Yes, of course, but it's a mistake because it is the same. It is the same war. Again, Russia, Hamas, Putin, Iran, maybe Turkey, and for sure China, it is the same axis of evil. And the common point between all of those Putin, Hamas, and so on, is one. They hate us. They hate you. They hate America. They hate Jews. They hate Europeans.
For someone, this is the last thing, for someone in the middle of this country who understands that we're not putting soldiers on the ground, that we're supporting someone else fighting, but looks at the money sent over there and says, listen, we've got to shore up our border. We've got to lock down our southern border. We have concerns about terrorism here. I can't get good funding for my kids' schools. The highways down the street don't work. The airports aren't as good as other airports around the world. Why? Why?
Why? Because politics are not good. But it would be much worse if we give a victory to Hamas or to Putin. What will happen, Bret, if your children or mine have to go tomorrow in Finland to defend Finland against an aggression? The Russians say it. They say that if they finish with Ukraine, they will attack Finland or Sweden. Hamas and Iran say it. If they can prevail and win in this war, they will not stop with the kibbutzim of Israel.
Well, the document comes out this week. Again, glory to the heroes. Bernard, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bret. Thank you.
Rich, I'll send it back to you.